All right, guys, what is going on? Justin Murphy here, back again for the iCoach Nutrition VIP members. This time, joining us, guys, we have Kelsey. Kelsey, what's going on? How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Kelsey, I don't want to butcher anything. I'm going to let you just kind of dive in on it. Tell us a little bit more about you and kind of how you got into this crazy online space and how you got into nutrition coaching and really just like kind of your history leading up to now.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you, Justin, for having me, and a little bit about me. So it's been a whirlwind, but I am a online nutrition coach with Kelsey Flanagan Nutrition. I specialize majority with women coming off the diet roller coaster, and I help them through all different types of things, but mainly the easiest way for me to describe is transforming habits to transform your life. So we dive into mindset, hormones, nutrition, lifestyle factors. But the reason really why I got into this is because I've been there. I've done the all or nothing. I've been diagnosed with hypothyroid. I've been on the birth control pill and overtrained through the CrossFit world. And I want to share some information that I've learned, but also what I've learned through other coaches as well, and all of my coaches that I've hired, what they have taught me. So I feel like it is my, opportunity to shed some light for women to know that we can actually be strong and not have to be smaller. We can, make ourselves a priority and not just constantly feel like we have to be there for others, like putting ourselves first to make us better, but also to feel better, to be energized and not worry about the scale as much. So I kind of got into it just based on my personal experience, but the online coaching came about when I've just found different coaches that all have the same passion as me and are on the same mission. So we've kind of created this group, and it's powerful and it's empowering. And I'm just excited to be a part of it. So I'm just sharing everything that I take in to others to help transform their life.
I love that. I one thing that I think Jason, or I'm sure there's been a lot of different people that have said this, but I heard it from him maybe a while back, which was just like, all of this education, like all of this time that we're investing in educating ourselves, it's almost like it's almost a bad thing if we don't go and pay it forward and share our knowledge with the world. It's almost like selfish in a sense, whether you're a coach or whether you just have experienced something in your life that has helped you and you want to pay that forward. So I love that. I think that's huge. So obviously, like us too, we work with, I would say the majority of our clients are females. We definitely work with males as well. But why do you think it is that we see, because I would probably argue like we see more nutrition or more females kind of going towards and getting nutrition coaching or life coaching. So why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I would honestly, I think, just based on the history of it, but the first diet was like in the 1800s, and it was geared towards women to go low carb. And I think it's just always this mindset that women, we have to be this certain size, whether that comes from the media, whether that comes from TV shows, whether that comes from women being models. Like, I feel like it's just this image. When you think of a woman, you think of a Barbie look, right? Like that's kind of been, the smaller you are, the happier, you've got to be this certain look. And that kind of overtakes us, and specifically our mindset. And I think that's where, it's hard for women to get out of that vicious cycle of, I need to be a certain way, I need to look a certain way to be happy. And when we kind of shift that and kind of figure out what is actually going on inside, we can create some change. But also too, I think women are, they're okay with asking for help and being a little bit more vulnerable. For men, they're always like, oh, no, I'm good. I'll do it on my own. And when the pain of change is not higher than the pain of staying the same, then they're kind of just like, meh, I think I'm good for now. So I think it comes to women always want to be better, and they always want to strive for that. in that sense. So I think that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great answer.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch on too was like what you had mentioned, and we run into all the time. And my wife is now pregnant, and we're expecting, you know, our first child in February. And so, one thing I see a lot is like after, you know, women having kids, whether it's one kid or 6 kids, whatever it may be, it's almost like they struggle with being able to like prioritize themselves again. You know, I saw it with my own mom, and you know, I also have talked to Alex about it a lot, which is like, look, like once we get through this process and like you have our child and like all of this stuff, like I want you to like go get massages and like go like do whatever the hell it is that you want to like make yourself happy and feel good, because like I see so many women that like struggle with being able to prioritize themselves again after having a child.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then because the motherhood, we take care of so many things. Like I always say, you can only have 4 burners on a 5 burner, you can't have 5 burners on a 4 burner stove. So if it, you is typically what's never on the stove. You got your kids, your family, your finances, something else always comes up, and then you are left behind. And then, every day you kind of get pushed back, and back. And months later, you look in the mirror and you're like, what am I doing? Absolutely. Yeah. It comes down to prioritizing yourself. And that's just going to make everything else that you're trying to juggle so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So with all of the, I think a lot of people, we live in this state of, information overload, if you will, when it comes to every last diet and fad and cleanse and everything else under the sun. And, I know for myself, like even with, a nutrition degree or whatever, like all this education in nutrition, like it's still freaking confusing. Like we still have information coming up, all this new research all the time. And depending upon who your mentor is or who you're studying, right? Like there's just a lot of different varying opinions. And if it's confusing us as coaches, like it's definitely confusing us. So what are some of the common, like with the clients you work with or what you see on social media or whatever, like what are some of the common diets that you're seeing like in 2018?
I would say the most common one I see right now is keto. I also see just low carb. In general, rather that, they're probably not really following keto as like the guidelines, but they're definitely restricting somewhere. If I could put just a restriction diet labeled, that would be the biggest diet, is they're restricting something. They don't really know why. But when majority of the women, they come to me, they're like, well, I'm not eating fruit right now. It's like, why? Well, I heard fructose is bad. Okay. And then the kind of like spiralizes, different things like that. And sweet potatoes, for an instance, I had a client tell me she's not eating sweet potatoes, but she's, crushing donuts because they're gluten-free. So all these different things, I'm like, okay. So really it's just a restriction across the board. Something is being taken away. Something feels like it's bad. Something, they don't feel that they have control over their eating habits, whatever diet that they're following. And I, that's my job to first, number one, to bring self-awareness to them. I feel like we both do, working with women that come to us like that. I think it's the first step is, okay, it's okay not to, freak out about if you had a piece of cake or if you had this. It comes back down. How did it make you feel? What did you experience? What did you learn from that? And what are you going to do next time? So definitely 2018 is just restriction. And I would say just living in deficit land all across the board. Everyone's in deficit land.
Yeah. Well, and I think that like what's so interesting is everybody's arguing over what's the best diet. And it's like, why don't we just say like screw the diet and like let's just start focusing like on the things that actually matter, the big rocks, if you will. Yeah. I always talk to this about clients and I talk about it all the time, which is like, let's take the creator, the founder of every last diet that's out there, and let's put them all into a room and let them like argue for 10 minutes with each other about how my diet's better than yours. And then we're going to ask the question across America, which is, what do most people want? Most people say they want to lose weight, right? They're in this perpetual state of wanting to lose weight. So how do we lose weight? We need to be in a calorie deficit. So perfect. Like, let's write every last diet up on the whiteboard here. I want to lose weight. That's my goal. So I have to be in a calorie deficit. So it's like, I try to talk about a lot as to food quality versus food quantity. Like, no. It's not that. Like, food quality matters and food quantity matters. Like, both of those things matter. Mm-hmm. So I think there's this debate as to like which one matters more, or, you know, which diet is the best. And like, I think if we can get out of the realm of categorizing things as like good or bad, like, it's almost just like, let's go back to focusing on like, eat good quality food, source your food from good quality places, like eat it in quantities that like support your lifestyle, like the majority of the time. Right. Like,
so. And know how to, I think too, what's missing is we're so wrapped up in all of these rules that when we get in the kitchen, we don't even know how to operate there. A lot of my clients that come to me, they're like, I don't even know how to cook. And I'm like, and you want to try this diet? Like, you don't even know how to cook those things. You can't even cook a chicken breast. So we have to, exactly how to learn how to eat real food, but also how to cook it and feel around it and actually eat. Like, take your time to eat. Those lifestyle things, those matter so much more than, oh, this is, so regimen, this is my meal. And it's like, do you enjoy that? No, I'm just doing it just because I should. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I hear that all the time. People are like, I have to eat 6 times a day. And I'm like,
yeah.
You like eating 6 times a day? No, I hate it. Cool. Why are you eating 6 times a day then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, a trainer 12 years ago told me that I had to do that. I'm like, okay, well, okay, let's move on from that, right? Like,
yeah. We're on the phone now. You're asking for help, so obviously something is not working.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So no, I love that. I think that mindset piece of it is, I think that's something that a lot of us kind of come back to. All this, like everybody says, the information's out there everywhere. The magic is like the application of that information, and really being able to like meet that individual, meet that client where they are in this like nutrition journey of life, right? Like, I think going back to your point, most people don't know how to cook and grocery shop and meal prep and things like that. And because of that, because they think that it's going to take 5 hours on Sunday, they just don't do it, right? And so like, I find that that's actually one of the first things that we look into with a lot of people is kind of that strategy and just getting people to understand like, hey, here's like 5 like 10-minute meals that you can make that are real quick and easy that, take the stress out of, hey, it's been a long day, I'm coming home, like I don't feel like cooking, but hey, I have the peace of mind as to like, this will only take 10 minutes and I'll feel better after,
Yep, absolutely.
So what are some of the big, like those, you mentioned keto, there's obviously others as well, but like, what are some of the biggest, and we've touched on it a little bit, what are some of the biggest like dieting like issues or like dieting myths that you see? So, like for example, clients come to you, they're like, oh, I didn't want to eat late at night because whatever, Harry Potter told me to. So what are some of like the most common things that you hear from like new clients that you're starting with?
I would say a question that I get a lot, are carbs bad? Should I eat breakfast? Or another way to rephrase that is, I don't eat breakfast. Is that bad? That's a really common one. And I proceed, I'm like, well, not necessarily good or bad. Nothing's really good or bad, but I do have a question to ask you. At 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, do you feel like you're really exhausted and tired and craving a lot of things? They're like, yes. And so then, backing it up about 6 hours prior, and I'm like, it might sound crazy, but I want to challenge you. If you're up for it, if you feel like this is something that you want to work on, let's start trying to eat breakfast. And then once again, making it very simple, those 5 to 10 minute little meals that can really win. And then all of a sudden they're not craving those things at 2 o'clock. And I think, all these rules, but everyone wants to follow the rules, but nothing's really working for them. So I think the number one is breakfast is a little necessarily myth. You don't always have to eat breakfast, but if you're having the side effects of not eating breakfast, then maybe let's try it. Another one is obviously the carbs. I've even heard brown rice is not good for one of it's because something, I can't even exactly remember, but it was something as far as one of her coaches in the past told her that she doesn't need it just as far as like blood sugar, but then she proceeded to tell me that she does have, irritation and she is lightheaded. So she was like, but I really enjoy it. So she added it back in. She's doing great. So, just kind of tuning into your body as far as what, you have these rules, but it's seeing, are you following them just because you should, or is it because someone told you? And then going back to, okay, let's try it for yourself. There's so many out there, even 7:00 at night, we're not supposed to eat past 7. So I'm not sure, but I have some clients that crush meals at 8:00 because that's what their life entails. And so we just work it into their plan, and that's how it works out. And they've lost weight and they're getting results and they're feeling better. So, taking away of all the rules and just zooming back into, okay, what is going to work for your life? Like you said, majority of the time. And that's where the results come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, building off what you said is like all of these rules, like one, what are these rules? Why are you following them? And like, first off, like, are you actually following them? Because I look at most of these diets out here and I'm like, I could not even do that for 30 days strict like that. Like that would make my quality of life so bad. Like I don't even want to do that. But yet, like somebody who has no business even trying to dive into that, like they're basically diving into the hardest diet out there.
Yes.
And so it's just like, but I think people are used to being told what to do almost. And so it's like, I have to follow this diet, or like, I have to do this, or I have to do that. And it's like, no. Like, remember, you live in America, right? Like you determine your own life. Like you get to choose, like you get to create your own diet, if you want to call it a diet. Like create it yourself, create what works best for you. And like, who cares what other people are saying, like, as long as you feel good with it, right? So.
And I think too, putting it back into kind of their hands and making them in charge of their choices is so empowering for them, because especially for women, we have to follow these rules, or we have bosses, we're kind of underneath somebody always. And once they feel empowered and that they can make their own decisions and that it's working for them, there's a sense of confidence boost. And that's really what women are looking for, is like, they just want to feel good. Whether they find that through food or whether they find that through food choices, movement, whatever it is. But that is a missing link too, that going back, why do women always want coaching, is I feel like they always are missing some sort of, they're trying to fill a little void as far as putting themselves on the back burner.
Yeah, I think that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that whether it's women or men or both or whatever, I think just empowerment in general is it's something that almost, like, I for example, I've had clients that have came to me that, like, I don't know how much you know about my story, but there was some dark times that I had to overcome. And like, I've had people that have came to me that have like reached out to me solely because of that reason, to work with them in nutrition, more so like lifestyle coaching, I guess I call it. But coming from like really dark places, like places of like, like whether it was like they got raped as a kid, or they had issues with drugs or whatever it may be. And it's just, I think it goes back to like, we all have like these struggles in our life. Like some are much worse than others, but we all have them. And I think like, it's really hard for us to overcome struggles on our own, because the internal dialogue and like the stories we tell ourselves sometimes aren't the most positive. And we need that 10,000 foot view. Like we need a Tony in our life, or Jason in our life, a mentor, right? To be able to oversee and say, hey, like, I understand why you're saying these things and why you think these things, and why, like, up to this point, this is where we are. This is what's got you to here. But like, you also have the ability, like, I'm going to empower you now to take action and choose what you want to do going forward. That empowerment piece is so huge.
It's key. Yep. On the nutrition side, yeah, absolutely. You've got to, even for me, for like exactly what, like with my mentor, but also with my nutrition coach, like, they kind of give you the reins to take charge, rather than, okay, because he said so or she said so. That's kind of you know, I'm not that my coach necessarily isn't always I can't always rely on them. And that's a goal. Like, I don't always want to have like a sense of reliability and dependability. I kind of want to be independent on myself and know what I'm doing and why I'm doing. And that's that sense of empowering. And you're going to be more confident doing that. And you're going to succeed and you're going to feel successful. And then why would you not want to continue? Why would you not want to keep striving for that continuously? So absolutely. Empowerment is huge. Not necessarily inspiration. Inspiration is good, but giving someone that push to do it on their own to continue to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you like, talk to us about how important it is to create some wins, as we like to call them. Like, so a client just starts with you, right? We're talking like that first month, the first 3 months or whatever. Like, how important is it for clients to get wins in the beginning to then kind of motivate them to make this something that's like sustainable, or they believe it to be sustainable for the rest of their life?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's great. I would say, honestly, it's very important, especially if they're driven by results. And that's one of the first questions I always ask is, what motivates you? Are you driven by results? Is that motivating? But then, like, what are results to you? Because majority of the clients, you know, the women were driven by the scale results. But what if in that first month that doesn't happen? The majority of the time it doesn't. So now it's like, how many other things can we count as wins? Like, what would be really something else that you would count as a win? Like, is there a pair of jeans that you want to feel more confident in? Is there a shirt that you want to wear that you'll feel better in? Is there a time that you want to go out and play with your kids, but you don't have the energy for it right now? Like, can we keep replaying that moment and winning those things? So wins are huge. Non-scale victories, huge. That's what keeps it going, because even for clients that have been, you know, probably both of us for 9 months or so, the scale doesn't move that much anymore, especially when they come to you and they don't have much to play with. And for the advanced athletes, if we're prioritizing, you know, performance and recovery, we don't necessarily want the scale to move. So we have to find wins, whether it's mindset, whether it's movement, whether it's a performance win, even sleep wins. A lot of my clients we celebrate getting more than 8 hours of sleep, and that's huge. And then re-emphasizing, you know, the importance of that and bringing the awareness, like, what do you notice? What are you experiencing when you have these things? And that's huge. Non-scale victories, that's what keeps things going. That keeps you shooting forward, because one day the scale is going to stop moving. Or what if it, you know, in a week, you don't see anything? Like, are you going to stop? Because there's so many things in our day that we're really searching for that can be not on the scale. And one of my favorite client stories is, first call, we put the scale in the hallway closet and have not touched it since. Like, and all we focus on is non-scale victories. Those little bitty success breeds success. So finding that anywhere in her life has kept her going.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that, I mean, it's so incredibly important. I think I always say most, I'll say for a lot of people, right? Like, they're so used to like that number on the scale being their determinant, right? They step on it, and by that number, that dictates.
Good or bad day.
Right? Yeah. So I always try to, you know, talk to people about like, look, like if you have some type of like weight goal or whatever, like, cool, like weigh yourself, like that's a data point. Let's take like body composition pictures, that's a data point. Let's follow things like biofeedback and track sleep and digestive and sex drive and all these different kind of biomarkers. Like, that's feedback. Let's try to create as many different data points as we possibly can to give us feedback, so that we're not just reliant on the scale, right? Because most of the time, like I mean, I ask clients all the time, I'm like, how many times have you quit on whatever your goal was because of the scale? And they're like, all the time, you know? And it's like, okay, well, we have to identify that. And like, for example, like a client with yours, like we've had plenty of clients where we're like, we're not weighing ourselves at all. Yeah. Right? They'll come to us and they're like, I've logged my food on MyFitnessPal for 973 days. And I'm like, cool, you're never logging your food on MyFitnessPal again. Like, you're done. Yes. So, yeah, I think it's so interesting. There are people, it's always in extremes. I feel like the balance is it's always hard to find. I feel like we'll get people that are on just a crazy extreme, and then you get people on this, you know, far other extreme. And so it's just, how do we start to create balance in your life and like make this process something that, you know, enriches your life and like improves it, like makes it better, not it's like, oh, this is the biggest stressor in my life now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the scale somebody can step on the scale one morning and it's 2 pounds down and it's a wonderful day. And then the next day they step on it and it's 3 pounds heavier and they have that awful day. So not letting the scale affect your day. Like some people literally, you know, go through that and they are in a bad mood just because of the number. And the thing is, there's so many reasons why the scale can be up or down.
Yeah.
I mean, so many. Sleep, water, stress, movement, all of it.
Yeah. And I'll tell them, I'm like, look, like if you've never weighed yourself like 14 days in a row, like go do it so that you can see all the crazy fluctuations.
Yeah. Never the same. So absolutely. Daily wins, huge.
Yeah. I love that. So what are your, I mean, obviously I listed off some of the things that like we look into, and there's other, you can get body fat percentage testing. But I want to hear more about kind of like these off scale victories. Like what are some that just come to mind for you right now that some of your clients have gotten in the past?
Mm-hmm. So some of I get a lot of women that struggle with their feelings around food and their relationship with food. So this past week, like comes to mind really quick is winning a meal to where you don't feel like it was a cheat meal. One of my clients, for an example, like her favorite food was pasta and her family wanted it. And so she felt like in the past, she felt like if she had that, she would have cheated. But this time she didn't feel guilty. Like those moments are huge. Say if another client, she went and had dessert at a restaurant and she didn't feel guilty because she had a few bites, but in the past she would have felt guilty and shameful or feel like she had to do cardio the next day. So those are wins for the women's side that struggle with their relationship with food. Another one would be obviously is the sleep. Sex drive, like you said, is important. Energy throughout the day, how their clothes are fitting is huge. Also pictures, biofeedback, mindset, how they like feel about themselves, wake up in the morning, like what is the first thing that they do, like self-affirmations, being more positive as far as, you know, what's going on, journaling, like are they consistently doing something that's going to better them as far as the self-development side? Are they consistently reading? Are they doing their gratitude in the morning? Are they hitting their steps a day, their movement goals? So many different wins. Have they tried a new recipe and they feel like they liked it? You know, a lot of us are like, I'm a picky eater, but they don't necessarily know why they're a picky eater. They just didn't like, say, like roasted broccoli, but they found that they like steamed broccoli. So then that's a win because now they have more variety in the kitchen and then they're more likely to stay consistent. So many of those wins like that.
I love that. So, and it just goes to show, right, that I mean, like, I think a lot of people, when they go to follow a diet, that's essentially the all or nothing approach because there's so many things that you have to now take into account and apply to your life. Whereas maybe with this approach, or with, I think, a lot of, you know, people that are kind of in our group, like we kind of start to identify, like, you know, what's your lowest hanging fruit, or like what's like the biggest issue, right? Like what's the one thing that if we improve it, it's going to make everything else better. I think being able to identify that and get them to really like simplify, almost like precision nutrition, you know, it's like they have this year-long model and it's like 2 weeks each focus area. And for a lot of people, they're like, oh, that's way too slow. And I'm like, if it's too slow, like I get it, that's cool. But the second that you falter, we're going back to slow, right? Because it's obviously not too slow for you, you know?
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, slow progress is good progress.
Yeah. Well, because 30 days of progress versus like 5 years of progress, like I'm way more interested in that, playing that long game than getting these kind of like immediate wins, if you will. But cool. So like I guess summing up like some of the principles that you see across the board, some of the most common ones, like okay, fine, don't diet. So what matters? Like Kelsey, what matters to me? Like what are like my big rocks, if you will? Like what are the things that I actually need to pay attention to and be consistent in, versus, you know, maybe trying to like follow the keto diet?
Yeah, I would say, you know, there's a couple things that come to mind, but kind of splitting it up into, I would say, pillars is the easiest way. So nutrition, say for as a pillar, that we're looking for, back to the whole foods, we're looking for real food, staying away from the rules, going based on how you feel. So if something does bother you, say for, nightshades is an issue, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go Whole30. But that maybe just means that we can just back up on some nightshade foods that you're eating. So just giving into like the biofeedback as far as, is this working for you? Did you eat this meal and did you feel satisfied? Was it whole foods? Did you have vegetables on the plate? Was there a lean protein source, and how much? So all of those things come to mind. But also on the movement side, like are you getting outside and enjoying? Are you using your body, whether you're lifting? Are you doing activities that you actually enjoy? Like, is Zumba something you love? Perfect. Let's do that. How often would you like to do that? And then going back to making sure we're recovering from Zumba. Sleep. Sleep is another one, with paying attention how many hours of sleep. These are important just because I find this is one of the most unsexiest thing to talk about, but the thing that makes you the sexiest because it helps you in all of the areas. It gives you the energy. It helps with your willpower. It helps with your discipline. It decreases your cravings. It makes you feel good. You're less, leaning on caffeine, which is okay. You don't have to be on caffeine and feel like you need the energy. Like you can just sleep and get really good energy. Hormones, mindset, are you feeling positive and empowered in your clothes? How are you feeling in your clothes? Those things, are you wearing things that you're more confident in? And then our hormones, going to gut, or is your stool loose or soft? Those are important. Like that's a huge test on your health and what is going on. Is your sex drive there? That's a huge test on your hormones. And all of these are so much more important than a diet that just tells you what to eat, because what's the goal of that? To look a certain way for how long? How long can you live that way? Are you going to be happy that way? Not sure. 30 days is good, but then it always comes back in vengeance. Like you lose 10 pounds and you gain 30. So going back to, those little bitty habits over time, definitely, like the PN approach, definitely always wins with my clients. They might not like slow at first, but they sure in the hell like themselves a lot better in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, rather than they did in a 30-day challenge. So yeah, I think that's key.
Yeah, I completely agree. So talk to me a little bit about how important it is for us as a coach to kind of help the client establish not just a goal, but why they actually want to accomplish that goal. Because I find that a lot of people, and myself included, before I started paying attention to it more and more, we actually struggle with setting real goals, right? It's almost like, oh, I want to lose weight, or I want to feel better. Well, it's okay, cool, but 6 months from now, how are we going to define that, right? Mm-hmm. So how important it is, or maybe you could shed some light into what does the process look like with you? How do you help clients set a goal, and how do you help them kind of really dig in deep to the why behind that goal, so that it can help them overcome everything that we're going to have to overcome, going forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I even struggle with that. Goal setting is it's very, you fear it. When I say, okay, we're going to set goals, or next coaching call, we're going to set goals, or they almost crawl into a shell. They're oh God. So definitely, it's even for us as coaches, it's hard to set goals, but I saw this somewhere. I think it was actually Cody Boom Boom, just reverse engineering it. So we set that big goal, whatever it is. Is it an outcome-based goal? Outcome-based or a behavior-based. So when we have the outcome, say one client wants to run a 5K, or she wants to do a rock and roll marathon, for an example. Well, that's a great goal, but that's very lofty, right? If we just say, okay, this is what we want to happen. Now we have to break it down into little bitty steps. We'll start in a month. What does a month of success look like? In a month, what do you need to accomplish to get closer to that? Then break it down even more so. What does a week look like? And then day to day, how are you going to manage all of these things to add up back to that big goal? So I think that's important is breaking it down into little bitty small steps. We don't have to do the extreme approaches. We can just focus on the day-to-day and still get good results and get closer to that goal. So never feel that it's very overwhelming. I wouldn't say never feel. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be challenging, but get sensory with it. Get in detail. Like, what is it going to feel like when you're at that marathon? How do you want to feel when you get there? Okay, who do we need to become to get closer to that? And then what does it look like as far as, a month out, where do you need to be? Are we going to need to prioritize recovery for sure? Are we going to need to prioritize sleep? What does that look like? Are we going to have to set bedtimes? Like, those are the daily check marks that in the end, it's just going to be easy, so to speak now. We just have to take care of the day-to-day to get there. And the same thing goes for a client that wants to lose 15 pounds by X date. Why is that? But then also, one of my favorite questions is, what if you only lost 10? How would that feel? What if you only lost 10 and still fit in that size 8 dress at that certain date? Oh, that would be good. So being real with them and giving the expectations, because we never know. We always say, like, for a woman, it's like always 15 or 10 pounds is always that number that comes to mind. But what if we lost 8 and we could feel confident, have the energy, fit in that size that we want, and be happy? So being more real and setting those expectations as coaches is huge in that, and breaking it down and going along with them in the process is so helpful. Because I know for me, when my coach did that and we just break things down to where it becomes so easy that anybody can do it, then all of a sudden the goals are happening and you're just kind of like just checking them off.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that. I think even going back to like what you were saying earlier with that client, that from the very beginning, y'all put the scale into the closet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, regardless of the scale or not, like regardless of hormones or not, like we're always like, the starting place is like, let's look into your nutrition, lifestyle, exercise habits.
Mm-hmm.
And as you start to improve your habits, like the number on the scale and all those things like that's a byproduct of improving your habits, right? Like becoming more consistent with healthy habits. So I always say, like the external, if you will, like the number on the scale, your body comp, whatever, it follows the internal. So if we're tracking biofeedback every single week, and like when you first started with me, you were getting 5 hours of sleep, you were pooping once every 4 days, you had no sex drive, you had no energy, you were never, all these issues. And then as weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks go on, all those red flags are becoming green lights across the board. Like, I promise you, your body composition and all those goals are coming along too.
Yeah. And we never even have to look at those. We can just refer back to them once every 8 weeks and, okay, cool, check, done. We don't have to stress about it day to day. Absolutely. Control the controllables. That's it.
Control the controllables. I say that all the time, actually.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, and with Cody, I mean, that's another thing we were talking about. Like, I love that idea of like, let's set the goal, let's establish the why behind the goal, and then like let's help you reverse engineer that process so that you can see it, but also you're gonna understand that, like, look, shit's gonna happen, like life's gonna happen, like we're gonna have to change this perfect plan a million times, and like it's okay, because that's like why we're on a team together. Like, I'm gonna help you through all of these things. If it goes to plan and everything's perfect, then like, hey, I'm just a genius, I guess. But like, it's not gonna change, So I love that. Cool. One thing I did want to touch on, I think I kind of missed here in the beginning, was like, what was, like, I know this, obviously you struggle with a lot of these things, right? And like, I know you started, like, when's the first time you ever worked with a coach? And how long would you say it took you to actually make this mindset shift? Like the Kelsey I'm talking to today versus the Kelsey back then, like how long did that take to shift that mindset?
Man, wow. Well, I actually started working with a coach like a year ago, but the mindset shift has been in the works for quite some time. I would say, back about 4 years ago is really when it started, when I was restricting a lot, feeling like I basically needed to over-exercise. I did no carb because I was feared of carbs. I followed templates to the T. I was a maniac on MyFitnessPal. So all of those things, at one point it just kind of all came crashing down, and I just was saying no to going out to parties. I was saying no to doing things with my friends and going out with my family. And I found myself kind of sad and depressed, and I just started reading books. I actually met my boyfriend like 2 years ago. He was a big help in that, as far as giving me access to his Kindle and giving me all of the books and the self-help books. So it really, you know, it doesn't happen overnight, but I think obviously the first step is the awareness part. I was like, okay, something is off here. I kind of need to focus on myself and find, you know, what am I missing? And then also hiring my nutrition coach was huge, because I'm like, as a coach, I feel like I hold a lot of people up, and I'm a high achiever, I'm a go-getter, and I feel like I can hold myself accountable. But the biggest piece that is helpful with my coach is the accountability piece. I can have somebody that I can just lay everything out onto. I can just tell her this is what's going on, and I know that she can handle it. And I find that to be very helpful. So that's something that, as a coach too, that I've learned is I need to be a good rock. And so I need to take care of myself, and I need to, you know, be healthy up here to take care of others and to take everything on. And that's powerful, but it doesn't happen overnight. And honestly, I'm still working on it. It's a daily thing. You know, I still read books. I still journal. I still visualize. I do all of those things that helped. And sometimes those bad demons creep in, and, you know, I have to go back down to the basics and get right with myself. So it's never necessarily gone, but it is always a pursuit to just be better and be my best. And because I know what that feels like. And once you get a sense of kind of, I would say, empowerment and feeling like confident in your own decisions, that it's going to become easier to not fall back into that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're going to feel so good that you're not going to want that feeling to go away. You don't want that guilt to come back. You don't want to feel like you need to overexercise. You don't want shame. And you don't want to be reliant on, you know, what does the scale tell me, and all of these numbers on my fitness pal. This does not define me. And finding yourself, not necessarily in others, but finding yourself when you look in the mirror is the important part.
Man, I love that. That was powerful. I think that y'all need to rewind back this video right now and listen to that again.
Yeah.
I think you're 100% right. So a lot of like the clients that I work with, like whether they're clients or whether they're like other trainers and coaches and mentor clients, like I tell them, and this is a conversation I have with myself all the time, I can't lead others if I'm not leading myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm not my best self, then I'm not going to be able to deliver on each call. And for most people, like this is going to be the best 30-minute or hour call, whatever you do, you know, best call of their day. Just like in a CrossFit gym, like this is the best like hour of their day. You know, that's what we always kind of talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just always leaving on a positive note, and like always like like you said, like always empowering them with every single call. And I don't know about you, but like it's a great feeling, like when your client texts you and you're like, man, like you're just literally like the best 30 minutes of my week or 2 weeks, or I look forward to our call, or, you know, or whatever, because it's, you know, that you're truly actually like making an impact in people's life. And like for me, that's like true fulfillment. I've never felt fulfillment in such a way until, you know, I started like helping people in that way. So I think that's amazing.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's huge. It can be, and that's the thing too, is I always say I want to be the coach that I never had. And so constantly in pursuit of giving somebody kind of what I felt I was missing, that I was trying to find through food to look a certain way and be a certain way. But really it was just, you know, giving positive feedback and helping them and understanding and knowing that they're struggling and walking them through that is definitely huge. Absolutely. And it's, in those 30 minutes, you give it your all. By the end of it, you're like, oh my God, I just feel like I just, you know, worked an hour. So giving everything, and it takes a lot to do that. It takes a lot on the back end to make sure that you are, you know, in a good spot. You can't give from the empty cup, and the lantern has to be turned on. So constantly developing and pursuing and sticking to your routines and keeping your habits in check. That's important. We have to do that on the nutrition side as well. It's not easy, but once you have the goal and the big why, I feel like that's what drives. It makes it so much easier for us as coaches. It's like people are depending on us. We're doing it for them, but we're also doing it for ourselves so we can be fulfilled and confident and help others live their best life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I'll coin it from Jason, but like the, lead from the front, like I love that. And that was a challenge for me, like from the very beginning as soon as I started doing even personal training back in the day, it was like, okay, how do I show up and add as much value as I possibly can to this person's life, in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
And I think regardless of whatever else you talk about or happens or whatever, if you're able to achieve that, that's success.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to ask you, knowing where you are now and everything that you've overcome, and then now being able to empower others and help them overcome their struggles, out of all the things that you do on a daily basis, you mentioned, journaling, you mentioned exercise, this and that, whatever. So if you had to pick I don't know, we can call it 3 things or 5 things, what are the things that you've adopted over this last year that are non-freaking negotiable, that you're I have to do this every single day, because if not, I don't feel at the top, that cup is not full?
Good question. So my biggest thing is sleep. I have to get certain hours of sleep. I have to be in bed at least by 9 o'clock is my go-to. That is my biggest, like I said, that's my keystone. So that's something that helps me throughout my day, give me the energy. Next thing is I've recently adopted a morning routine that I am loving. That includes 15 minutes of quiet time, 15 minutes of journaling, I'm actually reading this amazing book called, here it is, actually I'm sitting at my desk, The Miracle Morning. So I adopted it's called a SAVERS. SAVERS is the acronym, so that breaks it down. S is silence, A is affirmation, V is visualization, E is exercise, so movement, R is reading, and then S is scribbling. So all of those things are kind of in my morning. I go on a 15, 30-minute walk with my pup. And then my other non-negotiable is breakfast every single morning. That is starts my day off good. So those 3 things are I know it's probably a lot in my morning routine, but it's definitely, it sets my day up for success. So my morning is, I would say overall my morning is most important to me. Just getting my mind right, unplugging, not checking my phone before 7 is another, I would say, is my keystone as well.
Got it. I love it. So what if, I guess, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but what if you just talked to or described that to a client, and then they came back with you and they said, well, I have to wake up at 5 in the morning to get to work every day. I can't do a morning routine. Mm-hmm. What's a piece of advice for people saying that?
Yeah. I would hear them out. I would see, what, if that's seriously the case, that's okay. But then we would go into, okay, I would say first thing is I want a time log from them. So I want to see, what does their whole day look like? Why are they waking up at 5? Is it a commute? Is it because they're going to the gym? Stuff like that. But then if that's a non-negotiable for them, then we're going to find a way in their day that they could plug in some sort of me time, some sort of something that's going to kind of take a step back and let them kind of breathe a little bit. Because think about it, if they're waking up at 5 a.m. and just going hard till 8, they probably aren't sleeping very well, first of all, because they're not getting really downtime. Cortisol is high. They're stressed out. So I would think, okay, first of all, I understand 5 o'clock is very early. Taking it back, about 30 minutes probably isn't in something that you want to do right now. But even coming at them and saying, what would it look like maybe about 10 minutes early for you? Say, 4:50. Oh, I think I could do that. Okay, well, that's, if that cuts down your sleep, what if we, try to go to bed 5 or 10 minutes early and you never really lost any of that sleep? So plugging and playing basically in their day something that would be doable for them and that they feel themselves confident in. So I never really tell clients what to do. Always ask a bunch of questions. So you just ask a bunch of questions and see, and they feel, once again, like they are in charge of this decision. They feel like I'm not telling them, but they have made the decision themselves. And that makes them feel more confident in doing it, and they're going to do it. And if it's not going to work out, they're going to come back to me, and then we're going to game plan again. So even, if you are waking up at 5 a.m. and you feel like you can't do that 10 minutes, then I bet you have another 10 minutes throughout your day that you're possibly wasting somewhere else that you're just not aware of. So not saying no then, but saying yes somewhere else, and vice versa.
Yeah. I think it's just trying to find, if the morning routine doesn't work, like, cool. Like, is there 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes or whatever, any time in your day that you can dedicate to you, right? Because your time, your energy is consumed by everybody else and everything else throughout the day. So when's your time? I go to the gym. I'm like, well, okay, yes, good, but like, it's still a stress on your body, right? And so I brought that question up because for you, for example, now somebody that has this morning routine, like, what happens if tomorrow chaos happens and you don't get to do the morning routine? Like, how does that affect your day? Because I think for a lot of people, even if it's, hey, roll out of bed, go for that 5-minute walk or 10-minute walk, like, that's a win. First thing in the morning, they start their day off with a win. And that's like motivation to help them be kind of more successful throughout the day.
I would say if like that whole routine necessarily didn't work, I can cut it down. I can do one thing out of that. I don't necessarily have to throw, and I think that's a big piece of coaching is the habit part. Is we don't have to nail, it doesn't necessarily always have to be perfect, but we can always be in the pursuit of something better than yesterday, even if it was just the same as yesterday, but just constantly trying to keep something up and strive for that continuously. So say tomorrow I couldn't get my morning routine, I would find time throughout the day to do something that is still for me, that is something along the lines of what I'm kind of doing in my morning routine, just a little bit of quiet time. Say if I can't do breakfast, okay, that's okay. I would definitely just make sure my lunch is bigger, because the reason why I need to do breakfast is to make sure I eat enough. So now my lunch basically is just going to be a little bit bigger, and it's going to be okay. So not feeling like I was a failure is the first thing, is knowing that even though I didn't do what I really need to do in my non-negotiable, I'm still going to find success in my day. And it doesn't define that I didn't do it at the beginning of the day. That's not a failure. That's just something that didn't work out then. And that's majority of my time I do it really well. And I have to know that for myself. And that goes the same for, coaching and clients, is how we're going to let them know that it's okay if you don't do it every day. I don't want you to be perfect, because then we set that standard so high that anything that is below that, you feel like a failure. So, finding that happy medium that was good. You even made some great decisions, but don't feel like you always have to do that, because that's not life. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah, and I think that's such an amazing point, because I think some people can get almost like, they, like, let's say for instance, they don't do the morning routine, they feel like a failure. So screw the rest of the day, I'm going to go and do whatever, and it's like, what's the one thing I can do in this moment to kind of like change things around, or how do I bring a positive into my life at some point? How do I get some type of win in my day? So I think that's a great outlook on just kind of the day in general. Cool. All righty, girl. I know we're coming up here on like an hour, so I definitely want to respect your time. But I love this. Like, I think that there are so many valuable points that people can take away from this, and so thank you for that. But where can everybody find you at? What's your website? What's your Instagram, Facebook, all of those things, and that way people can connect with you.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram, Kelsey Flanagan Nutrition. Website is Kelsey Flanagan Nutrition, and Facebook is just Kelsey Flanagan. So Kelsey Flanagan Nutrition, Facebook, I do videos. There's links. There's all kinds of stuff you can find on there, meal tips, tricks, and you can find me there. Send me a DM and let me know that you listened, and I'd love to hear from you and see what you took away from it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kelsey. I really appreciate it. And we'll give one more kickback here to everybody. I think I heard sleep like 1,000 times in this. So guys, look, supplements cost money. Sleep is free. Going for a walk, that's free. Like all of these things are actually free, but yet we don't take advantage of them. So sleep is important. That's the biggest takeaway. I want to make sure that we drill into your head. Prioritize it. It's so important. So Kelsey, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I will talk with you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Let me